Hey everybody, it's Allie and welcome to our Y&R chat for Sunday, January 24th, 2016. Absolutely everyone is suspicious about Dr. Anderson except for Sharon, and it's because Dr. Anderson has Sharon right under her control via the medication that Sharon is taking. And I am so proud of Nick this week for, first of all, talking to Sharon, saying, are you sure it's a good idea if you go off your medication? I've seen the ramifications of this before. And also I'm proud of Nick for not really falling for Dr. Anderson's act. We know she's evil. We know she's manipulative. And we watched a conversation between she and Nick where we saw her manipulating him. I mean, it almost seemed like it was going to work. I was very nervous that Nick was going to be snowed by the evil doctor, but he wasn't. He did a good job of using his reasoning here and like digging a little deeper and saying, yeah, something is kind of weird about her. I really thought that Dr. Anderson was going to succeed in making Sage look crazy because there was this awesome, straight up awesome scene in the coffee house this week where Sage really let it rip on her. Said, you know, I think Dr. Anderson merely asked how Sage was doing, and Sage said, well, we'd be a whole lot better if you'd stay the hell out of our lives. I loved the way Sage just told it like it is, didn't put on nicey nice face, which is another thing I'm gonna say about Sage. I like that she doesn't put on nicey nice face. You know what? From here on out, I'm gonna stop making excuses and apologizing for the fact that I like Sage. I like Sage. I liked her a lot this week. I like that she's taking back charge of her life and she's not being a wilting flower. She's not allowing Dr. Anderson or Nick or anybody else to tell her how she should feel and to manipulate her into hopping on board the crazy train, which is probably what's going to end up happening to Sharon. I think that what we're going to see is, since Sage has taken it upon herself to go and try to bust out this doctor, find out more about her, figure out what it is that she might be after when it comes to her and Nick's lives, and Dr. Anderson is on to it. So I think we're going to end up seeing Dr. Anderson using Sharon in some way to I don't know, come in between Sage and Nick, or somehow wreak some horrible new havoc on Nick and Sage's lives. And we're already starting to see it work. Sharon is becoming a little bit more irrational. Sharon has a bipolar disorder, which, as it's been represented to us on the show, is supposed to show her in kind of a wild mood swings. She will act out and do something irrational, and then she'll pull it back and she'll be very rational. This week, Dylan revealed to Sharon that he has a badge now. He's part of the GCPD, and Sharon barely made an attempt to understand where Dylan was coming from. She put her foot down, and it was just the littlest hint in the way that she talked to him that something wasn't entirely right with her. And maybe it was because Y&R had just established the conversation between she and Nick where Sharon's acknowledging that she's on a lower dose of her medication. But the real kicker was when Chelsea comes to find Dylan to ask for his help. Sharon tells Chelsea off too. She didn't even hold back. It was beautiful. It was kind of cool to see these glimpses of a vicious Sharon. I prefer my Sharon a little more, I don't know, warm milk, we might say. But Sharon, this version of Sharon, we saw just these little hints of smoke. And where there's smoke, there's fire. How fantastic was it when Sharon said to Chelsea, you know, I remember when you were a manipulator and you're doing it again right now, only it's with my husband. It was uber confrontational. And of course, I don't think that Chelsea was doing anything wrong, but Sharon was like, who are you to come into my house, ask the help of my husband? You know, I may have put it behind me that you and I may be have put it behind me, the confrontations and issues that we've had in the past, but don't think I've forgotten. It was wonderful. And I can't forget to mention that Sharon managed to sneak in a little bit of a quip about Nikki too. She said something like, well, Nikki, now there's a woman who has tried to change her husband. It was very good. Like, Sharon is, instead of being balanced, she's now looking around at the world around her, looking around at the people around her, and I think she's going to be maybe seeing them in a different way and maybe playing a different kind of role in their lives, which is so scary for me. I felt bad for Chelsea in that moment because that's just a preview of probably what we're gonna get from Sharon in the near future. I also felt bad for Chelsea because her husband is missing. She knows that Adam would not go radio silent, as she put it, on her ever. There's no way he would be not contacting her. She feels completely certain that something terrible has happened to him, and she needs Dylan's help. I mean, Adam is obviously missing, and he has no clothes to wear except for that sexy black tank top. Victor actually had Marissa taken. He was going to straight up exchange Marissa for Adam because he believed that Marissa was the girl that the kidnappers were after. I understand that you don't like Marissa, and I understand, Victor, that you're trying to save your son, but you have no idea what could have happened to Marissa. He was all too willing to just sacrifice her entire life to what he thought was the Santoris. He just constantly hits new levels of low, and then surprise, Natalie is the girl. It's the investors who have kidnapped Adam, and they don't want Marissa, they want Natalie. Oops. I mean, I cannot fathom that this was okay with him. What a mistake to make. He's got Marissa held somewhere, tied to the bed with zip ties. It's so dark, and I could really live without ever seeing another Y&R character tied to a bed. It never ends. It's like the go-to that Y&R seems to do. I can name for you right now at least 4 different times that Y&R characters have been tied to a bed in one way or another just within the past year. Oh man, well, since Marissa wasn't the girl that they were looking for, Victor made a little phone call and allowed her to be released, which, by the way, Marissa bounced back from remarkably. Marissa was kidnapped, zip-tied to a bed, did not probably know if she was going to live or die. She comes back to Genoa City after being released. She doesn't confront anybody. She doesn't try to talk to Victor. She doesn't do anything. As soon as Natalie realizes that she's the girl, she sacrifices herself up to Victor in order to try to save herself, to see if by any chance she can get his help and not end up getting turned over to these vicious investors. And I will say, I think I started to warm up to Natalie quite a bit throughout the week, maybe in part because of her interactions with Victor. Did anybody else really like those scenes a lot? It seems that Victor is very entertained by Natalie, and she seems to challenge him in kind of a naive sort of way. I loved when she said to him, "It's just business," and he said, "Oh, really? Tell me about business." There's something in that connection there that I found delightful. I am also suspicious of what Natalie's connection within Genoa City is going to ultimately be. She may very well be a one-off character that we see for a couple months and maybe we don't see her again, or is there a possibility that Natalie is somehow going to turn out to be the next Newman heir? That is my poll question for this week. Are you guys getting that vibe? Do you think that Natalie is somehow related to the Newmans? You can go to Y&R-Chat.com if you would like to cast your vote in that poll. And I'm really wondering if I'm the only one that picked up on that. It's certainly a possibility, and I think it would be an interesting twist if Victor was so flippant and so careless with her life. I mean, if he was ready to sacrifice Marissa for Adam, he is certainly ready to sacrifice this girl that he does not know at all and to swap her for Adam. He had maybe a millisecond of wondering if he should press send on that email to the investors, and then he ultimately ended up doing it. And that reminds me that last week we were chatting a little bit about Victor's email address, vnewman@newmanenterprises.com, and I had asked you guys to send me some funny personal email handles for Victor, and these made me laugh. Let's see, Victoria at the website says Victor's personal email should be _ladiesbillionaire at hotmail.com. Adam says, for the sake of my family at hotmail.com, which is so true. I mean, that could be on Victor's crest, right? For the sake of my family. It is exactly what Victor uses as an excuse for his bad behavior, Adam. Ellen C., this one made me laugh. I don't know why I didn't think of this, but she says it should be, I built this damn company from the ground up at megalomaniac.com. That's funny to me. Let's see, mine were, I came up with Nikki Forever at hotmail.com, and of course it would, like, Victor Newman at victornewman.com. He would be that vain to have victornewman.com. This is funny. Austin and Naomi left a comment too that said they actually tried emailing vnewman@newmanenterprises.com, and it's a real email. Can you believe that? I almost wonder if CBS would have purchased that or something. I would think that they would go to the trouble of purchasing newmanenterprises.com and any kind of domains. Like, if they're gonna use some kind of domain on the show, I would imagine that they would want to snag that, right? I don't know. Austin and Naomi said, we were too afraid to email it though. I wouldn't either, to be honest with you. I'd be too afraid to know what the response was gonna be. But that's entertaining to me. So Victor is definitely just burning his way through absolutely everyone. He cuts Kevin out of the whole project. Any investment that he's made in Natalie's software, he is gonna, I suppose, deal with Natalie directly. But as soon as Victor found out that Kevin had doubled the asking price or doubled the project price to take a finder's fee for himself, Victor cut him out. He yelled at him hard too. I felt bad for Kevin. I wouldn't have wanted to be him in that moment. Plus, I mean, really, I think Kevin, yeah, you did get a little greedy. I mean, Victor, you could have negotiated yourself that finder's fee. You didn't really have to lie or be sneaky about it, but he did. And on the other hand, I think Victor should just be mad at himself for blindly investing in something that wasn't there yet. None of these people, none of this is smart business. You didn't get a prospectus. You didn't get nothing. You just blindly handed over $2 million. That's your fault. So you're gonna, unfortunately, have to deal with the consequences. But all of that aside, we've got this kidnapping thing that needs to be resolved, and I think that it's going to potentially be resolved next week. Despite all of Victor's best efforts, Dylan ends up getting involved, which means the police are now involved, and the police are kind of working in tandem / in opposition to Victor to make this switch go down. The police are just gonna try to do what police do and do a hostage type situation. Shouldn't the FBI be involved in that? I don't know. But Victor is going to try to do everything he can do to make it go his way. No doubt this whole swap is going to be screwed up in one way or another. They're playing it straight, acting like they're gonna lure these investors into thinking that it's all gonna go their way, and it's certainly not gonna go anybody's way. They're just thinking Adam's life for Natalie's. We're gonna let the cops watch. And it's gonna be a major blow up. The fabulous part about it is that it's gonna be a major blow up at Chelsea's winter wedding fashion show at top of the tower. I love it when it feels like Y&R listens to me and they're like, oh, Allie loves fashion stuff. Let's do a fashion show. So I think that's gonna be kind of a fun element to weave into the drama that's going to be unfolding next week. Now, it was probably at around Wednesday or Thursday's show where my little Allie brain started going, we're hearing a lot about these investors. Who is that going to be? And it sort of occurred to me a little bit last week, and I brushed it off and thought, well, maybe it's not going to be a major plot point, but it is, if there's not, and in fact, I even kind of went and looked to see if there was any casting news. Has someone been cast to come into the situation and be the investor? And then it started to occur to me around Wednesday or Thursday's show that I bet whoever this other investor is someone who's already in Genoa City, someone who we already know, and it's seeming like the tide is turning in the direction of Phyllis. It's week 2 and I am already a total Jason Thompson convert. I love him. I think he is a great actor. I find him to be a good get for Y&R. He's got these subtle facial expressions. I think that he has a very intuitive delivery of the lines, and how about that gravelly voice? I just have been watching him very closely. Billy is confined to a bed, so I'm watching, he doesn't have anything else to work with other than these facial expressions, and I just think he did a phenomenal job. I really liked him this week. Jason Thompson is in the opening credits now, and he's got this vibe about him where I've never seen him before, yet I feel like I've been watching him for years, which is so rare to have somebody come on and just fit immediately. I don't know if some of that is because he has connections to the other actors on the show. If he was indeed from General Hospital, wasn't Gina Tognoni, who plays Phyllis, wasn't she from General Hospital? And I know there were a few others. Of course I was well, I was looking through Genoa City throughout the course of the week, and I was thinking, well, I think that person has a General Hospital connection, and now I can't remember any of them. But I think he probably has hobnobbed with these other actors, crossed paths with them, and so maybe that's where we're getting this instant chemistry, which, by the way, I think is going to lead into a Billy, Phyllis, Jack triangle. I kind of wonder if they cast him in part, maybe because he had a connection with Gina Tognoni. I don't know. That's just all speculation. But Billy is indeed awake this week. He is talking to everyone. He is making quips. He seems to have an air of forgiveness about him. Everyone is apologetic and really wanting to make him happy. I mean, they went so far as to eat pudding. I don't know if this is so random, and I don't know if anybody else noticed this, but did anybody else notice how much Amelia Heinel Victoria did not want to eat that pudding cup? Like, I was watching her because pudding is so nah. I mean, especially a pudding cup, a butterscotch pudding cup. I can't even think of anything more like, how about vanilla or tapioca or something, but butterscotch, bleh. And I was watching her try to pretend like she was eating this pudding cup, and it was not playing. She did take one bite of it, and it looked like she was revolted, and then the rest of the scene, she was just twirling her spoon around in the cup. Random observation. But I thought it was funny. Now, I have number one major question on my mind this week, and I want you all to tell me, if Billy is awake, where the hell is Jill? You cannot tell me that Jill would not have been in like probably a 3 feet radius of Billy's hospital room at any given time. She gave this enormous performance, enormous effort to keep our son alive over the course of the last 2 weeks. And Y&R couldn't grab her for one more episode to just, hey, welcome back to the land of the living, son. Or maybe they did and I missed it. I don't think I did. I just feel like Jill should be there. I don't think they did do a wake up scene. Ooh, you guys will correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think they did. Unless it was on Monday's show and I missed it. I don't know. Oh, now I'm second guessing myself, but I want more Jill. Oh, but Billy is awake, and he initially was wondering, I mean, he remembers the fact that he got beat up by the goons, but he doesn't really remember the fact that he got hit. And as soon as everyone tells him that he did, he immediately thinks that Adam did it. He's right to be suspicious of Adam, I would say, but it's really Noah. Noah is going to end up blowing his own secret, it seems. I mean, he's pacing around like a caged animal. Like every week, like every scene of Noah is just him looking exceedingly nervous, way more nervous than anybody should be who's not hiding something. So I have been focusing on Noah a little bit more this week too. I feel bad because I really think that the actor has been getting a little more focused, and I think he has been stepping it up. I think it's going to give us something to sink our teeth into where Noah is concerned as soon as Billy remembers. I mean, he's starting to remember that he got hit. He's having these flashes of the license plate and the car. And one more side note, it is so annoying to me that no one can conceive of the fact that it might have been an accident. That the hit and run part might have just been an accident. Come on, he was laying on the floor of the parking garage. It's conceivable, people. Paul, Dylan, everyone. But I am imagining that Billy will eventually remember that it was no. I mean, if he's remembering the license plate, he's gonna remember it, and he's gonna connect it to Noah. And I imagine that he's going to probably try to give Victor a taste of his own medicine, walk into Victor's office and blackmail him. Noah's life in exchange for Natalie's project. I had almost completely forgotten about the fact that Abby and Devon had a relationship. It was just hinted at. It seemed like maybe a year, maybe 2 years ago, Abby and Devon were starting something up. They had kind of a quirky little connection, and then it fell away and we never much heard about it again, and Y&R didn't really follow up on their friendship very much. So it was interesting to me this week to see those two interacting together. And I think sometimes I have trouble picking up on connections after a recast, because originally it was Marcy Rylan who was playing the role of Abby when the Devon mini romance was starting to develop, and then there was a recast. And I think sometimes I mentally don't make the transition as easily, and I think maybe that is what had happened with the Phyllis and Billy connection for me. I think I really connect into the actors and who they are and what the chemistry between the two particular actors are, and then when there's a recast, maybe it sort of falls away a little bit for me. But I'm open to seeing some more Abby and Devon. I feel more open to Abby in general than I was before. There does seem to be slightly more of a mature element there, although we're still talking about Abby. She's still completely selfish, but it doesn't seem as obnoxious to me as it was at first, or maybe I'm just trying harder. I don't know. Maybe being a married woman will settle her down a little bit. I think that part of Abby's development of her character is going to be learning how to be a stepmother to Max. She's trying all of the things that Abby Newman would know how to do. These are the tricks in her book. Getting him a video game that hasn't been released to the public yet. But those are things, like, she's using the tools that she has in her current toolbox. She's gonna need to develop some new tools. I thought it was also a little bit curious that Devon mentioned to Abby something about a different job, that her job at Newman Enterprises is boring and high pressure, and maybe you should go work for me and the brain research project that your mom is working on. Perhaps that would be something a little more low-key for you and also a little more rewarding for you. I can't imagine that Y&R would have brought that up and then would not follow through with it. So I am assuming either there's going to be a catalyst at Newman Enterprises that forces Abby to want to leave, or maybe she's just going to want to take some more time to herself and try to do something a little more low-key so that she can focus on her new stepson. Now, I'm a little mad at Stitch more than I am Abby at this point. I think as I'm warming up to Abby, I'm really ticked off at Stitch right now. Why? I understand. Max just lost his mother. That's something incredible to have to go through as a child. But why are they staying in a hotel? I don't understand why Stitch is letting this kid call the shots. It seems like all of the children on Y&R just make the rules on this show. I'm sorry your mom died, kid, but life is tough. Welcome to your fabulous new billionaire heiress home. What's the problem? Billy colored outside the lines with permanent marker. Yes, he did. That was last week's Who Said It quote, and the answer is Mariah. I thought it was such an astute observation for someone who doesn't really know Billy that well, and for some reason, that phrase encapsulated Billy Abbott for me, coloring outside the lines, and not just coloring outside the lines, but with permanent marker. Jasmine got it right, Lori got it right, Katie, Amanda. Austin and Naomi and Victoria all got it right. I had written down a quote I was collecting quotes for what this week's would be, and I found a good one. This isn't the official one, but another good characterization or a comment about Billy this week came from Nick. I loved how Nick got quippy with Billy in the hospital room. He walks in and Billy says something smart alecky to him, and Nick goes, "Well, it's a stretch, but it does look like Billy." I thought that was a fantastic little winky wink, considering we just had a recast of him. It's a stretch, but it does look like Billy. I liked that very much. Well, that's not this week's Who Said It quote. I picked something a little different for this week. Now, how closely did you watch and listen to Y&R? Because if you think you did, you can tell me who you think said this. "I'm an acquired taste." It was quick, so you had been watching close, but I'm an acquired taste. If you think you know who said it, you can go to yrchat.com and leave your guess. If you get it right, I will give you your props on next week's Y&R Chat. If you are part of the Y&R Chat Facebook fan page this week, you would have probably seen me send out a link to a casting update that just thrilled me to no end. But the actor Chris McKenna, who played Detective Harding on The Young and the Restless, has just been moved over to Bold and the Beautiful, which I'm very excited about. And if you guys are Bold and the Beautiful fans too, that's a little bit of a nice surprise, because he's such a good actor and he's so veteran. So it'll be really cool to see him over there at B&B. I don't talk about B&B very much, but there are so many points where Y&R kind of crosses over with it in a weird way, even if they're just sharing actors. There was someone that I noticed just over the past week. I'm always behind on Bold and the Beautiful, which is why I don't really talk about it very much. But there was an actor who played a goon on Y&R that I really liked, and he popped up on Bold and the Beautiful as a doctor. So it's kind of interesting the way we have these crossovers. But anywho, how about we read some comments? Connor left me a voicemail this past week, and he says, "You know, Natalie has that Marissa factor for me. I don't trust Marissa, and I don't trust Natalie." Well, I feel very similarly. I've watched both of those characters closely this week. Marissa just gets to me. I tell you, there are parts of me that think, is there any way that she is still manipulating Luca to help Noah? But then I swing back in the opposite direction and I think, no, she doesn't have to sleep with Luca in order to do that. She doesn't have to hug him. She doesn't have to give him praise. And I just think that truly Marissa is someone who is torn between her passions, and that is most definitely reason enough to not trust her. Now, Natalie, I want to toss this out to the crowd too. I'm so interested to hear how you guys are pegging Natalie. There was a great scene in Victor's office where for the first time Chelsea and Natalie come head to head, and Chelsea looks at her right away and says, nope, 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 this girl has con artist written all over her forehead. Do you guys think that's true? There's a part of me that is maybe a little bit naive, because I think that she genuinely did develop the project. I don't think she did, I don't think she intentionally manipulated, but I think she saw an opportunity and maybe grabbed it. I don't fully trust Natalie or Marissa for that matter, but there is something about her that I think has potential to be worked into maybe a long-term character. Sure, maybe she's a little bit manipulative, but I mean, Chelsea is something that Sharon pointed out early in the week. Chelsea manipulated Billy into a pregnancy. That's major con. That's far worse than conning somebody out of some money. So I wonder if they're possibly going to rework Natalie's character a little bit. Like they have, like they're kind of in the process of reworking Marissa's character. I really laughed. Gary left me a voicemail this past weekend. He didn't think this was, I think he second guessed whether this was a good joke, but I loved it. Gary says, I think Kelly has Marissa. You can tell by the way that she's tied her up exactly the way Jack was tied up. I really laughed about that because Y&R, why do they do that? Why do we have to do the tied to the bed thing all the time? It is so overdone. Y&R, come up with something else. And I guess I hadn't really thought about it, but we had Marissa tied to the bed, Adam tied to a chair. Come on. Oh, poor Kelly. I wonder if she'll come back someday. No, she was dead, right? She was definitely dead. Daisy on Facebook was theorizing a little bit about who Adam's kidnapper would have been, and Daisy kind of once again confirmed my own thoughts about who it could certainly be, because I thought to myself, well, or at points during the week, I thought, is there any way Adam kidnapped himself? Is that a third party? Who is this going to be? But then at the very end of Friday's show, Adam heard a conversation outside of the door where he's being held, and whoever the goon is that's holding him said, yes, ma'am. So we understand now that the kidnapper is female, and I think Y&R did throw us off a little bit by saying the investors. I think they didn't want us to pick up right away that it might be a single person in Genoa City, but to me, that felt like confirmation that Phyllis is the investor / kidnapper, and then Daisy kind of followed it up, and I thought, all right, well, if other people are making that connection too, then most certainly I'm not alone. Daisy says Phyllis has motive. What Victor did to her was unforgivable, and I can't see her letting it go. She's bound to seek a way to get revenge on him, which is so true. Phyllis absolutely never let go of what Victor did to her, and rightly so. She got kind of she got shafted when it came to the deal that she was trying to make with Billy, and she didn't give up. And I appreciate the fact that if this is correct and Phyllis is the other investor, I like that Y&R is at least taking us back to Phyllis's computer hacker history. Some people may or may not even remember that Phyllis used to be Genoa City's resident computer whiz, and then Kevin came along and he picked up that torch, and we didn't really see as much of that from her. But I think this is a really good way to bring in some Y&R history and give us a good twist, and it's a reasonable twist. Daisy makes a good point that Phyllis is the one that would have the motive to come in and try to outbid Victor, and I think that's how it's gonna go. Jojo on YouTube had mentioned to me last week something about Justin Hartley being off on a project, and he had followed it up this week to retract that and say that Justin Hartley actually just re-signed a 2-year contract with Y&R. So it doesn't sound like we're going to not have him on the show. I thought, well, that makes sense. If he's kidnapped, maybe that's Y&R working him into another project. And I think they certainly do allow actors to work on other projects. I don't know what the details of his contract would have been, but when Adam popped up on my screen this past week, I was surprised because I kind of was expecting, he's probably going to be gone for a while, but he is there, and it sounds like I had heard that rumor about Justin Hartley playing MacGyver. We've been maybe talking about that since the beginning of the year or the end of last year, and it sounds like maybe that's not the case. I need to get myself a copy of CBS Soaps In Depth or Soap Opera Digest or something. I like the CBS Soaps In Depth, though. That is right into my niche, right? Y&R, Bold and the Beautiful. CBS is all I need. I gotta get me one of those magazines or download the app or something so that I can bring you guys the Y&R news. I'm terrible about that. I usually kind of just go with what you guys tell me. So if anybody has any more speculation about that, feel free to let me know. I just need to do a better job of maybe researching. But thank you, JoJo, for following that up. I do appreciate it. Eric left me a comment at yrchat.com that says, I would love to see a Billy Phyllis triangle through what better way for Billy to get back at Jack for abandoning him when he needed him the most than to steal Phyllis away. Yes. I focused so much on the new actor Jason Thompson being a potential match for Amelia Heinel as Victoria, but as I was watching that scene on Friday at the end of the show where Billy and Phyllis were talking to one another and she was being suggestive about, well, maybe sometimes things happen and you don't think they're gonna, maybe dreams come true, there is such a thing as karma. The way they were interacting together, I thought, yes, I had kind of predicted this a few weeks ago, and I think it's true. I don't necessarily know if I believe Billy would do it intentionally to get back at Jack, but I can most certainly see a romantic connection developing between Billy and Phyllis. I really want to hear what you guys think about that. Lauren sent me a message on Facebook, and she is a podcast listener, and she says, hi, Allie. I did something fun earlier, and I listened to your old podcasts from this same week in 2011. It was fun reminiscing and hearing names like Baby Lucy, Jana, and Diane, people I haven't thought about in years. I always say how unique it is that soaps never have reruns aside from the holiday replays, but I would always love to see reruns of this old stuff. Oh my gosh, I love that comment, Lauren, because I was thinking that too. It would be absolutely impossible for Y&R to create a catalog and release a catalog of the old episodes, but I do wish there was more of a way to view old episodes and take that stroll down memory lane. I mean, CBS has vast resources. Why don't they make old episodes available? I think that would be something really cool to be able to see. But in the meantime, of course, yes, I've been doing the Y&R Chat video series since May, I think 2008. So that would be 8 years of Y&R Chat. And the podcast I started publishing in 2010, December 2010. So there would be almost, I guess, 5 years of the podcast. So if we can't go back and watch old episodes of Y&R, it's kind of cool to be able to go back and listen and watch old episodes of Y&R Chat and kind of jump in on where the conversation was at that point in time. Speaking of the podcast, I just want to say a special thank you I saw several new reviews this week of the podcast on iTunes. Tomato Graham, I love that name, says that she looks forward to the podcast every week. Allie's the best. Y&R's my guilty pleasure. I've been watching since the beginning. That is so cool. And so thank you for that review. Oh, and Creative Cakes also said that she loves the podcast. All of her Y&R friends have dwindled over the years, which I hear a lot. I hear a lot of people saying that they used to have people they watched the show with, and then they kind of, other people stopped watching, and I'm still here, and I want to talk about the show. And I love Creative. This really struck me too. Creative Cakes also says, I came across your podcast by chance, and I'm loving it. You're so funny and edgy. edgy. I love your views. Great job. Keep them coming. And thanks. Edgy. I read that and I was like, really? Me? I'm such a nerd. It's one of those things where I think you view yourself maybe differently than other people view you or something, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm the biggest dork in the world. Edgy? And I'm thinking about, I guess when I first started Y&R Chat, I think I did maybe let a few little curse words slip here and there. Never very much, but I kind of decided, you know what, let's keep it clean, because I know a lot of young people watch and listen, and I just, I like to keep it nice and PG on the same terms that Y&R keeps it, and so I don't know, what's edgy about me? It's funny because thinking about, there are people who go back and watch the old videos on YouTube as well, and the podcast, and I just think, oh my gosh, I am so humiliated, especially to go watch the old YouTube videos. I could probably stand to listen to an old podcast, but the videos, it's just horrific to me. Not only like the extra 100 pounds, but also the hair, all the weird hairs. It's bad for me. I'm probably not gonna go do it, but if you guys want to go back and get a flashback from Y&R history, that's maybe a good way for you to do it. We are moving full steam ahead toward the next Soap for Soap Fans giveaway, which I am super excited about. Last week, I showed you guys the first 2 bars of Y&R-Inspired soap and asked if you wanted to guess who you thought they were, which character was each soap based on, and I said if you get it right, I will give you a shout out on the next Y&R Chat. Only 2 people got it. It was Linda and Rena got it correct. The first 2 soaps that I decided to do were Lauren and Michael. I'm almost surprised that more people didn't get it right. I really thought I nailed it in the colors and the description. The Lauren soap is a wine fragrance. I used a fine red wine fragrance to represent Lauren Fenmore, and I have the red color in there, which also matches her hair. And then I also worked in some with the fragrance, a little bit of leather, a little bit of kinky leather, a little bit of honey, and a little bit of spice, which I thought was represented by the gold color. You guys have made 2 new essence videos on the Genoa City Soap channel. So if you'd like to hear me talk a little bit more in depth about why I blended Lauren's fragrance to be what it was and the colors and all that, you can check out that video on the Genoa City Soap channel. I dig into the character a little bit and kind of what my thoughts on her were and what I thought she would smell like and look like in a soap. And then also this is the Michael bar, which I intentionally made to be layered, and it has a very complex scent. It's a little bit, it's definitely woody, it's definitely masculine, and it has kind of an Asian-y flair in my mind anyway. And I thought for sure that you guys would get it. I thought it was so obvious. But if you want to hear me talking a little bit more about why I decided to do Michael in this manner, the fragrance is woody, it's black tea, it's very, it's very dry, I would say. I could sit here all day and smell soap, but I talk a little bit more about Michael's character and even his past and River, his father, and the ashram and all that stuff. If you want to check out that making of video on the Genoa City Soap YouTube channel. And I have 2 more soaps to show you this week. So since I wanted to do some new soaps for Valentine's Day, I decided to do 2 soap couples. So here are the next 2 Genoa City soap couples. So I have first here a really cool kind of dark purpley black swirl design. Smells like blackberry and spice with a really cool magenta sparkle top. I really like the way this bar looks. This is the feminine fragrance, we'll say that. And then we have the guy soap, black, white, kind of a cool, funky, spiky looking design. This fragrance, black licorice. Who could that be? Who could these 2 soaps be? If you want to guess which character you think it is, you can go to genoacitysoap.com, and if you get this one right, I will give you your props on the next Y&R chat. And again, we're totally gonna do a giveaway. Like, one of you guys is gonna win one of these soaps. So just if you want to put it on your calendar there, we're gonna be the actual giveaway announcement will be on Valentine's Day. So you'll want to check in the Sunday before, the Sunday the 7th. To find out what you can do to enter the giveaway. It'll be easy, like always. And one of you guys is gonna win. I'm so excited. I love getting the Y&R soaps into the hands of Y&R fans because it like comes from my own love of the show, and it's strange that I was able to blend in my weird random Y&R knowledge in this bizarre soapy way, but I like it. So far it seems like you guys have liked it, so definitely stay tuned. All I smell right now is delicious, delectable black licorice. It is distinct, I will say that. I think that does it for this week's Y&R chat, though. I didn't hear from very many people this week. I think you guys you must be sleeping. You must be in your winter slumbers or something this week. But let's not make that a habit. I need your feedback. So why don't you go to yrchat.com. From there, you can leave comments on the blog or go to Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, iTunes, and let's see. Oh, the voicemail. 309-588-4569 if you would like to feed back to me. Let me know your thoughts on the poll question, Natalie, her potential heiressness. I don't know. Oh my gosh, there's so much going on, and I really can't wait to hear from you guys all what you think. So, feedback and come back, and we'll chat about Y&R again next Sunday. Love you guys. Bye.